Hello. Thank you all for coming. My name is Misty. I work here at Clark Planetarium as the Community Programs Coordinator and Volunteer Coordinator. And I am so thankful for the support that you are showing for such an important program. We love to celebrate women and girls and their impact in science. If anybody, can everybody hear me okay? Okay, because I can hear. So every year we look forward to Utah doing work in our communities. Tonight we hope you have had a chance to do some of the activities in our building that feature women who have made an impact in our lives. Some you may not have heard of. We are going to introduce our I'm going to introduce our moderator. Then our moderator will get a chance to tell you about her amazing work. And then she will introduce each of our panelists, and they will have a chance to tell you about their work. And then we have some prepared questions that they will all get a chance to answer. And then you'll have some time for you to ask them questions directly. So tonight, our moderator, Stephanie Miller, she has been such an incredible supporter of our programs for my entire time that I have worked here at the planetarium. She does work for L3 Harris locally. She runs programs, and she has served our military, U.S. Army, for 9 years. So I know she has done some amazing work, and I'm going to let her share her details. But I just wanted to thank you again for coming, and without further ado, Stephanie.
Hello, everyone. So I think this is my third year moderating and my 5th year attending this event. Every year I've seen some familiar faces, but I've seen a lot of new ones, and so it tells me that we're getting the community more and more interested in these topics. I always have a huge, sorry, I'm doing a really bad job of this thing. There was a really big appreciation for the panelists that come out and take their time to educate the community and talk to folks about, the work that they do. And I think it really has a big impact on the youth in our community. So I just want to give another round of applause for our panelists real quick before we move on. So just a little bit about me. I joined the military at 17 years old. I joined as a satellite communications operator and maintainer. Had no idea what that was when I enlisted, but I was like, all right, sweet, here we go. I think I like computers. So I ended up really loving that job. And so you can see me, thumbs up, standing on top of what is called a STT, which is a satellite transportable terminal. Operates in X, Ka, and Ku frequency bands. And so I didn't have any idea what that stuff was until I joined the military. So I remember getting into training and getting my hands on the equipment and just being really excited to fix broken things. I got really excited about how it worked, and eventually I thought I'd go to college in the military. I did what a lot of people do, where I joined to go to college and then didn't go to college, and then went to college after. And so I ended up getting a degree in computer engineering while I was serving L3 Harris as a field engineer. As a field engineer, I worked on ISR platforms, so intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. So my favorite being the U-2 spy plane. Got to work on the comm system suite on that aircraft over in United Arab Emirates at Al Dafa Air Base. So that'll probably be forever the high time of my career. Just was the coolest thing I think I'll ever get to touch. So for you adults out there, if you are into that sort of thing, go watch Bridge of Spies. Give you some history, give you information on a really cool plane. My husband down in the bottom left corner there, that's my husband and my 2 daughters, Kaya and Remy. They're actually in the audience tonight and waving at me quite a bit while I'm up here. They've never been to this event in all 5 years, and this is their first time getting to attend, so I'm extremely excited. And then there in the bottom right is myself and some of our other L3 Harris employees volunteering at the local Volunteers of America youth shelter. So I've done that quite a bit in our spare time. So in our time here in Utah, I've just really enjoyed the community, really enjoyed helping out with Clark Planetarium, and really have gotten a big kick out of getting an opportunity to give back to the community. So with that, I think I'll go to our first panelist. This is Christy.
Yep, it works. Okay. We got it. I am so happy to see everybody here. Thanks for coming. It's fun to see little people and older people. I'm always happy to come here because the planetarium is such a generous host. So nice here. And I like to be able to see my bugs super big on the big screen, so it's kind of a treat for me. Who do you think needs an entomologist? Can somebody shout out who needs an entomologist? Who needs entomology? Everybody needs entomology. You do. Yes, who? What do you think? Who do you think needs it? You do. Are you just raising your hand saying I do? You do. You do. You don't know it, but you do. Okay. That's my job in a nutshell. Okay.
Thank you, Christy. Fantastic. That was awesome. Also, I think those are the biggest pictures of bugs I've ever seen. So, yeah, you said you found that really pretty moth in Provo, right?
I didn't find it from 1915.
1915. That is
How old do you think I am?
I know. Well, that's a great point.
Yes.
That's a great point. You look great, by the way. Yeah, exactly.
From the 1890s.
Oh, that is fantastic.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal. Awesome. Thank you so much, Christy. All right, next up we have Brianne Garcia.
Hello everyone, good evening. My name is Brianne Garcia, and I work as a manufacturing process engineer here at L3Harris. I am actually not originally from Utah. I am from Southern California. Just moved out here about coming on to 4 years. Me and my mother, she's not in a picture here, but she's in the audience. Please raise your hand. She's a single mother. She raised me, very strong mother, and I could not have done this without her. So I'm really happy that she's here supporting me tonight. And so just a little bit about me. Yes, I did come from California. I went to school for mechanical engineering, and I started my journey, I'll talk a little bit more in depth later, but I started my journey actually doing robotics. And as you can see at the top right-hand corner, this is a Charity Heritage. Misty at the time, she had gotten started into my journey, and just last year they were able to come out here from the robotics team and see me also be working here at L3Harris, so it kind of came full circle there, so that was pretty cool there. So now I always thought either doing robotics, what was I going to do? I went into mechanical engineering in college. There were a lot of different items that I probably could go into. Was it space? Was it design? What could I do? And I was able to choose something that as mechanical because it was broad range of engineering, and I was able to kind of focus in more as I went through school. Towards the end of my career in college, I was fortunate enough to land an internship with L3Harris in Santa Rosa, California, actually. And that is where you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, I was there as an intern. I was the only girl there on my team there, and it was pretty cool. That was when I first really learned a lot about manufacturing, and I fell in love with it. I love being able to work with so many of the different types of teams there. There's assembly people who build products, there's people who design the products, test them, and everything in between. They inspect them, and I really enjoyed that. So when I went back to school after that for my senior year, I was fortunate enough to have been able to find a job here in Salt Lake City that was a similar full-time job. And so I was able to move out here. It was a really large move, but I'm so happy to be here. There's not too many pictures that I can share from my actual work, but as you can see, so I work, as I did, in manufacturing, process engineering, so I do a lot of trend analysis, trying to see what is going wrong, what could be going wrong with as we're producing the units, and try to fix it out, continuous improvement. How can we always make this better? There's always a way to make something better. And that was something that I really enjoyed being a part of and being able to do. So yearly or annually at our work, we're able to think of projects, continuous improvement projects, and then we can present them in a showcase. So this is one of my products at the top left that we were able to present. We worked together in a team to try to figure out what are some design components that we can improve on to make this, whatever we're working on, make it better, faster, cheaper, just more efficient altogether. And that's one thing that I really enjoy working on at L3Harris. Just a little bit, so some of the things that I do work on is either radio frequency equipment and antennas that we end up contracting out to the military and other customers that are needed for our products, that need our products. So here's just a picture of one of the antennas that L3Harris does produce, and a couple other pictures. Let's see what I have here. In the middle are actually from my internship that I was able to take back with me. I did a little bit of prototyping and designing there, so we were able to do some 3D printing and just some other efficiency. We work with like a lot of different items. You can see a couple of ball bearings there that are used in different products, and just trying to figure out better ways to use them and to make them more efficient when they're used on the floor. And then one last thing that I really enjoy doing up here is a picture of me and the what it's called the We3 program. And let me read it so I can get it right. It's women who strive for empowering, enhancing, and encouraging other women. And this is us actually here last year. And I was fortunate enough to come and volunteer at the L3 booth with the We3 last year. And when I actually was sitting here in the audience last year watching the panel, and I was so inspired. This is something that I've always wanted to do, to be able to share my story with everyone. So I was fortunate enough to be able to be a part of the panel this year, and I'm really looking forward to kind of sharing more about my story becoming an engineer, and happy to answer any questions along the way as well. So thank you.
What Brianne is not going to tell you is that I actually forced her, I dragged her here. She's really excited about that too, right? Yeah.
Oh yes, absolutely. Thank you, Stephanie, for this opportunity.
She's like, I have to say this. Okay. I've known Brianne for a couple of years now, and she's super bright, super motivated. Her management has nothing but fantastic things to say about her. I want to make sure that her mom gets all of this on camera because she's recording, so hi mom. But she's just been a joy to have. I was the chair for our We3 organization, and once I started seeing Brianne show up to our events, I was like, please keep coming. You're a great example to be bringing into the community, so thank you for coming.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
Of course. All right, sweet. We have, next up, Rachel Kingsford.
Hi everybody. I am Rachel Kingsford. I am an associate director at Huntsman Cancer Institute here in Salt Lake City up at the University of Utah. Who in this room has ever taken a medication? Have you ever taken a medication? Awesome, right? Medication is important, right? Who in this room either has had cancer or knows somebody who's had cancer? Right? So hopefully you all saw a lot of hands go up. So cancer touches a lot of people, and we're always looking for better ways to treat cancer. So I started out in middle school wanting to be a doctor. And so I went to college and I took all of my classes I went to Utah State, go Aggies. I took all of my classes in preparation to go to medical school. But I realized along the way that I wanted to make a bigger impact, and I fell in love with the research process. So who in this room has done a science fair project? Yep, everybody's done science fair, right? So learning about asking a question, and so I pivoted, and I decided I really wanted to find a career where I could work in healthcare, but I could also work in research, because I really wanted to make a difference in people's lives. I know how awful cancer is, and I wanted to do something to be part of the solution. I wanted to try to be part of the team that's working to cure this disease. And so I started at Huntsman Cancer Institute in June of 2012. And I started in a position as a clinical research coordinator. I'll explain a little bit more about clinical trials in a minute. But I worked with patients that were on clinical trials. So they were willing to test new cancer medications to see if they would help themselves and also to help future people that face this disease. And I was able to do that for several years, and then I worked into the management team where I support the doctors that are working with these trials and the people that work directly with the patients. And so this picture is of me at a conference, and I had the opportunity to do a poster. And again, this is applying the research process, asking a question, finding a problem, and then trying different things to solve that problem. So this was some of the work that I did with some of my colleagues at Huntsman Cancer Institute. So this is a little bit about how drugs get to people. So people work really hard in labs to understand how diseases work and then find strategies to try to treat those diseases. So that is the microscope on the far side. That's early discovery, ongoing research. When they find a drug or a chemical that looks like it could work, they will then move it into clinical trials. And very brave people that face these diseases will be the first people to take these medications. And we work really hard to determine whether or not these treatments are safe to give to people and what dose. So the medications that you all took have gone through this process. So here in the United States, it's really important that the medications that are available to you from your doctors have been through this process, tested, and determined to be safe. Once we know it's safe, we know what the dose of the medication should be, then we move into phase 2. So phase 2 is where we're really trying to determine, does this work? So we know that this medication is safe to give to people. Now we ask the question of whether or not it works to treat their disease. And then we can move into phase 3, where we try to see if it's better than what already exists. So is this a new medication that's more safe or less expensive or easier to take? So that's where phase 3 clinical trials come. And after those clinical trials come, then there's a review process through the Food and Drug Administration or the FDA. And they will review all of the research that we do to determine whether or not they're going to give approval for these medications to be prescribed to people with these diseases. And so we work on the process of collecting all of that data to allow the FDA to make decisions about what medications can be prescribed to you. So we do that in the cancer world. So here's just a couple of pictures. So on the far right over there is some of my team, and I want you to notice something about this team that I'm with. This is at a conference. Do you notice that they're all women? Isn't that great? So these are some really brilliant women who work to try to help people with cancer and to give them access to new treatments. And you can see in the middle there, I was able to So I had a question, I had a problem with something at work. And I asked a question and I tried something to solve that problem. And I got data to help me determine whether or not my solution was effective. And then I did a poster on it. So you saw me with my poster, this was a different poster. And I actually won a competition because my poster was something that was meaningful to everybody else that was in my industry. And then the other picture up here is my why. So whenever you're doing something, it's important to think about why you're doing it. Why is what you're doing important to you? Why is what you're doing important to other people? So this is a picture of me and one of my cancer patients named Steve. And Steve had a type of cancer called mesothelioma that's caused by asbestos. And a lot of people worked in the early phases to look at finding a way that could potentially treat this disease. And so Steve volunteered for one of our trials that was in phase 1. And he took this medication and it actually worked. This medication helped him to live much longer than he would have otherwise. And the work that I get to be involved with is so special. And Steve gave me a hug one day and he told me that because of what you do, my granddaughter is going to have actual memories of her grandfather and not just to have to rely on what other people have told her about me. And that being able to make that kind of a difference in people's lives is so special and so remarkable. And it's a real honor to work where I do and do what I do. And I am very excited about clinical research and look forward to talking with you a little bit more tonight about it. Thank you.
Rachel, that is amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I'm just a little choked up here listening. I can see some other folks in the audience too, but really though, that is phenomenal. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, my name is Chloe Wilson. I'm a welding instructor for Utah State University. And I'm just going to spend a little bit of time telling my story. So I don't come from a blue-collar family. I was raised in Utah County, and I was supposed to grow up and not have a career and not make my own money and to be a mom and stay at home. And I think that's a really beautiful path for those who feel a calling to it. But I didn't feel a calling to it, and so I decided to start welding. I took my first welding class in high school. You can see in the top left corner, that's the first thing I built. I made a lot of dresses in high school too. I've always enjoyed making things, so I'd make my own dresses. I took this welding class, and I decided to make a dress mannequin that fit my exact dimensions, which was a pretty ambitious first project, but there it is. And then I went to school at Utah State University in Price, their Price location, and got my Associates of Applied Science in Welding Technology. And I don't know how familiar you guys are with Price's welding program, but they constantly have national welding champions that take first place in the state and then first place in the nation. And there's the organization that we work with is Skills USA. Anyone familiar with Skills USA in here? Okay, a few of you. Cool. So it's a career and technical student organization. It's an organization that gets students ready for the workforce and helps prepare them using competitions. And so our students have taken first in the nation for the last several years and represented the entire United States at World Skills, competing with welders across the globe. So we've had, Chandler Vincent was one of my classmates when I was in welding school. He took 5th in the world. Jordan Packard took 3rd in the world a few years ago. Wyatt Hansen and Lyon France placed bronze 2 years ago. And hopefully we'll have a competitor in Shanghai this year if he places first in the nation. So we're known for having a very rigorous competitive welding program and producing really high quality welding graduates. Bottom left corner, that's me with my associates in welding. And then, I thought I'd put some of me in school, but apparently not. There's a few industry pictures. So I graduated with my degree in welding technology, and then a lot of my fellow welding students went to Weber to pursue a bachelor's in welding engineering. But I decided I wanted to go make money, and so I went right into the industry. So when I worked in Salt Lake, my first job out of college was building automated vehicles. I don't believe I included a picture, but I did wiring harnesses for automated rovers in a pallet storage company. And then I worked construction. I built shipping container homes and apartments. You can see me in a shipping container up here. And we worked on an apartment complex here in Salt Lake. I don't know if any of you are familiar, but it's called Box 500. And it's a 6-story apartment complex made out of shipping containers. And I cut almost every door and window in that entire apartment complex out by hand. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. I learned a lot about construction. Let's see, I worked at semi-service. I built semi-truck parts and helped repair and remodel semi-trucks and customize them. I did sheet metal fabrication, car parts, boat parts, ATMs, and TIG is my favorite process. I don't know how familiar you guys are with welding, but I love TIG welding, and so I got to do some of that in Salt Lake. So just had kind of a well-rounded welding career. And then I ran into one of my former welding instructors at a Skills USA event, and he said, hey, we are opening a second welding campus, USU is, in Moab, and we need an instructor, and I'd like you to apply. And I had never thought about teaching. I was like, bless the hearts of those who teach, but it is not a career for me. But he showed a lot of faith in me and thought I would be a good fit, so I applied and got the job. I moved to Moab with my husband and built Moab's welding shop and welding program. And then the year after that, USU expanded to a third welding shop, and then I moved to Blanding and built their welding shop and welding program. In both situations, I was handed an empty shop, and they said, build a welding shop, build a welding program. And I was 23 years old when I was first hired to do this, and I had no idea how to do any of it. And it was terrifying, and I just put one foot in front of the other, and I figured it out. And I've had to face a lot of fear throughout the process, but I have grown and developed a lot doing it. And we are now building a full welding shop in Monument Valley, USU is, and I've been one of the main consultants on the build of that shop, electrical layout, shop layout, what kind of classes they're offering. And then my second year at USU, I became a certified welding inspector, which is the most horrible test I've ever taken in my life. It was awful. And yeah, throughout my time at USU, I focused on bringing girls and women into the skilled trades. I will attend any recruiting event I possibly can. I didn't have a lot of people telling me when I was younger that I could grow up and become a welder. Actually, no one told me that. And so when I have an opportunity to tell girls that they belong in the skilled trades and there's a space for them there, I'm really passionate about doing that. I've hosted a couple women in welding workshops in Moab. Is there a picture of that? No, oh wait, top right corner, woman in welding workshop. My husband helped out with that. That's his hood with an American flag on it in the little corner there. And we had women of all ages come, and some of them had been wanting to learn how to weld for decades, but they just didn't have access to a space where they saw women represented in the industry and they felt welcome and comfortable. And that's kind of been a thread in my teaching career, is girls and women taking my classes because they're like, there's a female instructor, I feel more comfortable with that. And so I have had way more women in my welding classes than USU has ever seen before, and I'm very proud of that. And I serve primarily Native American students in Blanding, and I've grown a lot as a person doing that, and I'm very blessed to serve the students that I serve. There's a picture of me. I went back to school while I am teaching full-time. I got my bachelor's this past summer. That's me with my students at graduation. I'm working on my MBA right now. And has anyone heard of Jessie Combs, Fastest Woman on Earth? I was very grateful to be awarded the Jessie Combs Scholarship that is helping fund my MBA. There's a documentary about her on Netflix. It's called The Fastest Woman on Earth. And it's about her career in racing. And she is a welding icon as well, and she's an icon for all the women in the skilled trades and has blazed a path for us. So I was very grateful to receive a scholarship in her honor with the Jessie Combs Foundation, and have been able to connect with other women in the skilled trades doing that. So Yeah, does that cover everything? There's like the mountains of Moab in the background. There's my husband Kiefer up top. Kiefer, the first day I ever met him was the interview for my first welding job. And he interviewed me, and then we ended up married. We like worked together, and he's a very good welder. So yeah, there's just some pictures of my journey there. But yeah, that's me. I'm Chloe. I'm a welder. I'm all about bringing women to the skilled trades, and I'm honored to be here with you today.
Thank you so much, Chloe. I have a question. Who is a better welder, you or your husband?
He's a better TIG welder, I hate to admit. But I'm pretty well rounded, and he is not a certified welding inspector, and I am. So I've got that over him.
There you go. All right. I like it. Awesome. Rodriguez, sorry.
Hi, good night, everyone. We're going to change subjects. It's kind of interesting. I love how different fields are represented tonight, all different stories. It's part of the fun, also being part of a panel like this. You meet other wonderful careers. But today, I'm going to talk about what I do for a living. It's a very different type of research. And I have been pursuing darkness in the sky. And so in particular, that sounds very ambitious. It's about black holes. That's what I have been looking at. So black holes are notoriously difficult to spot in the sky because they're black. But we have an advantage, which is all the light that surrounds them and all the effects that they produce around black holes. This is a very big black hole, exaggerated, just to put kind of an idea of how hard that is. So one question you could always ask is how do we know they're black holes, right? This was predicted by a theory. I don't think the video is going to work. No. But I wanted to sketch for you here. This is our galaxy, and we have only started looking at where the black holes are. And only the past 15 years, we found and measured that there's a very big black hole in the center of our galaxy. That's the red spot there. And we call this Sagittarius A star, just because you have to look towards Sagittarius constellation to see where that's the center of our galaxy, and that's where it got the name. So we have a giant black hole. And there are smaller black holes. There's black holes that are the size of the mass of the sun. They're sprinkled all over the galaxy. We don't really know where they are. And there should be millions of them, according to predictions, but you only know 20 or so for those. And so those are these dots here that we are keep discovering with our measurements. And so for situating ourselves, you see that the sun there, that's where we sit. So we're very far away. Don't get scared with how close we are or not from the center of the galaxy's black holes. But this is a bit my world of things that I look up. If you looked up our table before, black holes have an anatomy, so they sometimes matter around them becomes very bright and they shine in some way and also eject things out. Not out from the black hole, but out from things that they come very close to the black hole. They don't like them. They repel them by electromagnetic forces, and so the charged particles come out in jets. All of this, and the reason why I'm introducing you to all this is that 20 years ago when I was studying physics, these measurements were not there. So I was doing really theoretical work. It was advanced to go into a field that had no observations. And suddenly there were all these experiments and telescopes and measurements that started, finding these measurements and discovering more and more about black holes. Everyone is lately also very excited about space. That is fabulous. all the skills we train our students for are transferable for any other type of work you want to do. We do a data analysis, we do image, we do neural networks lately, so we are all in AI. And so this picture is something I had not specifically worked on the telescope, but black holes against light function in the same way as a ball with light. So there affects even shadows that they produce. So probably you saw this in the news a couple of years ago. And so here's a model. This is my theoretical work. This is a paper, an image of how two black holes create some shadows if you put light. NASA spent lots of money in doing that simulation there on the right. My prediction that I can do in my computer do exactly the same shadows, which is the black parts of that with the theory of general relativity. So there's a lot of information we can gather, especially for getting funds from the National Science Foundation or NASA to fund our students, to hire computer time, to do our work at the university. So it's all needed to, in the event that we want to fly something out to space, to be sure that we are going to see what we want. The last slide. I do have a small group of students and graduate students and undergraduates. This year. We called it the Gravity Lab. If you want, you can check us online. I do run, and this year has been the 10th year. So when we started at Utah State, there was no We All Matter in group or women's group. And so we started that 10 years ago. It's a student-led, and I provide or support them in whatever way. You see some of the pictures of the people involved. And I travel and do research internationally. I have, I think, memories of things that we did. And there on the right, you have the new projects. they're grown up. But I brought it because this was when we went to a conference, and it was very demanding to. Anyway, so those are some of the things I do. I teach at Utah State, and and so this is a bit of my work, and I have an honor to be here. And if you have any questions, please do ask later. So thanks.
Thank you. Awesome, thank you. So now we're going to move on to our question and answers portion of the event tonight. So the way we're going to do this is we'll ask a question. We'll go down, from me forward to the end. And if one of the panelists, if you guys would like to pass, just let the person next to you know that they can go next. On from here, I need this clicker still, so I messed up and put it down. Sorry, guys. All right. So we will start with Christy. Christy, when you were younger, what did you imagine you would do for work?
I had no idea. I was not in a community of a lot of people, so I did not know. I liked to play outside and lift up rocks and see what was underneath them. But I did not know that you could have a job and do things in nature. So I think it's really, really important to tell children, if you like clouds or creeks or trees or snowflakes or soil or bugs, you can grow up and that can be your job. And I just don't think we tell children that enough, and I think it's really, really important because we need more people studying the planet that we live on.
So, I would remember back when I was even maybe 2 years old, I loved playing with my Legos and my Lincoln Logs. Who has Legos here? Who has played with Legos? Any Lincoln Logs? No? Yes? those are always so fun for me. I always love building those and making little buildings, making little towns. And my mom, my family, they would always see that. And from the very beginning, they thought that I would make a great engineer. They would tell me that. And I would always say, or I never really said, but I would think it, I don't want to be an engineer. I don't want to have to drive trains all day. I always thought that that's what an engineer did. And it wasn't until way later that I found out that it actually integrates a lot of this type of building, a lot of thinking, solving problems, which they really had a good idea when I was very young. But I knew that I loved building things. Also had like a kind of passion for also rockets and space and things like that. So I knew that somewhere I would kind of integrate into that type of field. So I'm glad that later on I was able to kind of, but yeah, ever since I was younger, it was just something with buildings, something with stuff like that. So yeah.
So I mentioned this earlier. When I was younger, I always thought I was going to be a doctor. When I was young, I watched a movie that maybe my parents should not have let me watch. It was about a little girl that had cystic fibrosis, and it was kind of about her story. And I remember feeling so bad about this little girl facing this disease. And that's really kind of what inspired me to go into healthcare. And I had the opportunity to attend an event similar to this, and one of the activities that we did was checking to find our blood type. And that was so cool to me, to be able to see, how that makes such an important difference in healthcare. So I knew I always wanted to be in healthcare. And then when I was in college, I fell in love with working in research. And I did some research in they call it soft science, but we like to call it hard to do science. So my master's degree is in sociology, and I wanted to study health on a broader scale and a bigger population. And so I did my master's research on health, so asking somebody how they feel their health is, and looking at how that related to community attachment, how at home you feel in your community and your social network, so the people that you have in your life, your friends and family. And so I kind of had the social science background and then the healthcare background, and then I found this career in clinical research that kind of married both. That's how I ended up where I am.
Mine's a little out of left field compared to these ladies, I guess, but I wanted to be a fashion designer when I grew up. I was making Barbie clothes for my Barbies when I was little. I learned how to sew. I competed in fashion design in high school, won first in the state for fashion design. My dresses were displayed in the hallways of the schools. I made all my prom and homecoming dresses growing up. And then now I'm a welder. So I guess the thread here is I have always enjoyed making things. I didn't grow up in a blue-collar family, and I wasn't really exposed to blue-collar work a lot until I guess college. I don't think either of my parents has ever welded before, and that's a lot of the women I know who weld, that's how they're introduced to it, is their family members weld, and they kind of grow up around it and are familiar with it. And my story was not like that. My dad is a computer software developer, and he does a very good job of it. He does not really like hands-on stuff. So yeah, I ended up welding, and I've really enjoyed it.
So I never thought I was going to work on black holes. I don't think I knew what a black hole was. I was good at math, which was odd because, as a kid, most of my classmates hated math. And so it was a bit trying to discover what to do with that. I was good at it, and that's why I liked it. And so I guess my path was trying to find in science where I could be applying the tools I was good at. I always felt math was too abstract for me. It wasn't very interested in becoming a mathematician. So that's how I ended up in this world. So.
Wonderful, thank you. I just want to comment Right, on to the next question. Let's start again with Miss Christie here, so take care. What was one moment that inspired you to pursue a career in STEM?
When I was in high school, I had a teacher named Mr. Tierling, and he had us look at a graph from a terrifying book called The Limits to Growth. Has anybody ever heard of this book, The Limits to Growth? Yep, you've heard of it. It's pretty much about how, as humans, we're really doomed, really doomed. It's an old book, but it was very scary. And he also handed out a printout called 99 Problems That Humans Have. This was a long time ago. It was before the song. 99 Problems That Humans Have that biology could help solve, like acid rain, hole in the ozone. So this was a little while ago. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to dedicate my life to helping. Like, we're in big trouble. Biology could help. I'm not going to be a super smart scientist. I'm not going to be the world's best scientist, but I should dedicate my life to helping. So Mr. Tierling made me feel like I had a moral obligation to helping. So I feel like I'm doing my tiny piece to help. So that was what made me do it.
So I read this question before, and I love this story, and I'm so excited to share the story with everyone here today. So this woman that really inspired me to start STEM, it also for me happened in high school. And so as I had mentioned, I did come from California, and I went to an all-girls Catholic private high school, and it was an amazing high school, and I had an amazing time there all 4 years. But back in the time, this was back in the 2010s, there weren't a lot of opportunities for STEM that were provided, and especially in that all-girls environment. At the same time, we also had an all-boys brothers school, and I didn't really integrate too much with them the first half of my time there in high school, but then the summer before my junior year, they were giving out information about a lot of summer programs, and there ended up being this one that was a 1 week daily a robotics camp that was going to take place at our brother school, and it was open to both schools. And we decided to just try it out. My mother helped me sign me up for that, just because thought that it could come to something, just get some type of experience into that. So I didn't really know what to expect. Went over there the first day and walked in, and there were about 8 guys in there, and I realized right away I was the only girl walking into this camp. And I was like, okay, this is different, but the one who's in charge, it was the person I had on the picture. It was Cherry Mersic, and she was the teacher, the coach there, and the one who's leading the summer camp. And within that first day, she was kind of going around and asking, what knowledge do you have in robotics? Would you be interested in being a part of the team? I wasn't thinking that I would even be part of that because I wasn't even at that school. But she still asked me if I was interested in being part of the team. And I was like, wow, is this even an option? And we talked later, and yeah, that if I was interested in being part of the robotics team, even though I was the only girl doing this, that they would happy to have me. So I decided to take that chance there. And later on, throughout the week, we kept talking, and she had given me an opportunity, and it's not something that had never been done before, but that I could go over and take a couple of the engineering classes there at their school. It took a lot of coordination between both schools, but we were able to work it out. And so every other day, I would go over there first thing in the morning. My mother would take me. I would go, and she would teach me one-on-one in the morning, and then I would do a little bit with the class, and then I would go back to my school for the rest of the day. And we did that for 2 years. years, my junior and senior year of high school, and within that, I was able to really learn, like the first class that I took, it was Principles of Engineering, so it was literally every single type of engineering that you could think of, and I really enjoyed that class, and I realized that, wow, this definitely could be something that I could do. And then in the afternoon, I would work on the robotics team, and it was such an amazing experience, and I really learned a lot. And I actually wanted to ask, who knows what robotics is? Who has done robotics? Yeah? Who thinks robotics is? Let me hear someone. What about you? What do you think robotics is? Shout it out. Stuff with robots, absolutely. That is exactly what it is. And in the program that I did was actually, this is a program called VEX Robotics. So there was a specific type of kits and things that we would do to build robots for competition. And so we did a lot of that on the team, and we were able to go through league, through state. We even went to very interesting places like Iowa to compete, and it was such an amazing time. So I really learned a lot, and just that whole time there, it was definitely not easy being the only girl put in this program, but it really helped me gain a lot of confidence, having to gain the respect of all the teammates there and the classmates that I worked with. But I learned so much in engineering there, and that was really what really ignited that spark that this is what I wanted to do. So yeah, I really owe a lot to that back in high school, and I always remember that, and I'm happy to be able to share that here today.
I think I already kind of answered this with the last question, but I really wanted to help people, and I really wanted to be in healthcare, and I fell in love with scientific process and research.
Well, I fell in love with welding as soon as I struck my first arc, and I was planning to go to college for fashion design, but it was like $60,000 a semester, and my parents wouldn't sign off on that. And now I'm very grateful for that. But I ended up at USU and just decided to take a welding class my first semester, and just absolutely fell in love with it. Great program, great people. I think as my time there advanced, I just recognized that there wasn't a lot of women in my classes, and then I decided to enter the workforce and to become a welder. I did research in advance, and I was like, this is something that I really love, and I did some research on what kind of money I could make, and it seemed like a good fit, something I could make money off of, and something that I really enjoyed doing. And I was the only woman in every shop I ever worked in. I never had a female coworker, I never had female teachers, I never had female mentors. 5% of the welding industry is female. 95% of the welding industry is male. And I just noticed a huge lack during my career and my education of not being in spaces with women, and it felt very lonely and isolating. And so I just saw this job as a welding instructor as a way to represent women in this industry, and show them that women belong in the skilled trades, and women belong in welding shops, and women can do whatever they want. And also, I'm a pyromaniac. I've always loved fire, and I've always loved making stuff, and so it seemed like a perfect marriage of the two.
So I had registered at the university. I got in, and I had to register for classes, and I wasn't sure what to do. My mom wanted me to be a doctor, and I wasn't sure about that. So 3 days before the deadline for the registration for classes, I thought, well, I'll take physics, that I can change to any career basically in the sciences, and that's what I did. And so I went back home. I had registered for classes in physics and told my parents I'm going to become a physicist. So that was my way into the sciences. But I think looking back, there were teachers that influences us. Things, that you can trace back to books and movies and things you like. But at that time, I felt was going to work out and how I was going to make a job out of, something, because I'm hearing all these ideas about insects and, but then it's like, how are you going to make a living out of, your passion? That's, the next step. So magically, we end up all finding our paths, and probably you all have experiences like that. But mine was a bit uncertain, I think. I started trying out things.
Thank you so much. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the next question. I still have Chloe in my head again, talking about how much she loved fire. So,
I made an explosion in my shop the other day, and I got in trouble for it.
We have interesting panelists every year, right? But this year, I mean, we've got bugs, we've got fire, we've got black holes. My daughter, she already left, by the way, but she has been asking me about black holes nonstop for about 3 months. So I was like, oh, thank God Maria is here to satisfy that, to quench that thirst. So thank you. Okay, next question. What was one moment where you felt like giving up? What inspired you to keep pushing forward? This is a loaded question.
I just didn't. I never, my family, I'm the first person in my family to go to college, and I really struggled. I didn't know what I was doing, and my family would say, what are you going to do with a degree in entomology? And I was like, I don't know. I just know that's what I want to do. And my mom would say, oh, I see you struggling so much. You're working full time, you're going to college full time. Why don't you just drop out? Secretaries make plenty of money. And I was like, nope, I'm just going to keep going. And I just kept going. So I never was going to give up. And it took me 7 years to get my bachelor's degree. So I guess I'm just stubborn. I just wasn't going to give up. But I feel like it's good to just know what you want to do. And I think when young people ask me, like, what jobs could I get? I'm like, kid, I don't know, because I don't know what the future's going to be. And so I don't think we should tell kids what jobs they'll definitely have in the future, because they are going to be building the future. So, like, follow the passionate thing that you know you can do, and then you create the future. I created my job. Nobody was doing it. It wasn't a job that was posted. And I think children, younger people, shouldn't have specifically an idea in mind, like Maria. Like, you will find it when you get there. The future will be built of things we can't even conceive of now. So
that is awesome. That really is. So I was thinking about this one, and there was a certain time when I was in college, and again, I was going to college for mechanical engineering, and I chose to do mechanical so that way I could kind of focus in wherever it may be, and I thought it was broad enough that I could find myself in some type of industry at some point. Going into college, I did have a passion for space. I always thought that that's what I was going to go into. I was going to do NASA, JPL, something with rockets. Actually, senior year of high school, when we did the yearbooks and we did like the most likelies, I was actually voted most likely to go to Mars one day. It'd be still a cool goal. I'd be definitely up for that. But still, I chose mechanical, but with that idea in mind that I really wanted to do something with space. And going into my third year, it was after my third year of college, that I landed an amazing opportunity to work with SpaceX back in California at headquarters, which is over in Hawthorne, California. And so that, it was such an amazing experience. It was my first step into industry. And believe it or not, it actually was a manufacturing intern position, and I didn't even realize it at the time. But they threw me in with these amazing projects to kind of on. And I thought it was really cool, and I got to also see a couple of the rocket launches straight from Mission Control. And so that was like a dream come true on its own. And so altogether, it was a really great internship. Afterwards, though, after the internship, and I started thinking, I'm like, this was great, but it seemed like the space industry is huge, and they're always forward thinking, like they're always thinking for the future. And it was, because it was so big, it's kind of like if you're not really up there working on like specific items, specific projects, then you can kind of get lost in the program. And there are specific talents that are straight for that. But I started thinking, like, is this really for me? And that was a really, really hard question for me to ask, because, or to even try to answer, because to me, if I wasn't doing space, then what was I going to be doing? I thought that that was my path forward. And when I realized that, yeah, it was a great opportunity, but I didn't really feel like I saw myself doing that long term, I did get a little discouraged, because I felt like I had gone back to the drawing board on where was I going to go next. And it did feel like, what was I doing here, doing engineering, especially like if I wasn't doing space, and then I would see a lot of my other peers doing like design and straight into theoretical math or things like that. And none of that seemed to fit my interest, what I really wanted to do. So that was really tough for me. And then the pandemic hit, and so there kind of went like my next chance of a actual internship. Luckily, to pass the time, I did have another opportunity that was, it was non-paid, but it was a good thing through NASA that we got to work in a team and kind of do some designing for things that were going into space. So that was really cool, but again, it was great, but it wasn't my passion. And I didn't even know what my passion was, and that is something that can be very discouraging, especially when you're trying to figure out and everyone around you seems like they know what they're doing. So, but then after that year, I was in college a part of an amazing career development program that was helping me try to find matches for people that, or for companies, that match somewhat of my interests. But at that point, I was like, I will take something that they were like, how about L3 Harris? They have a position open for a manufacturing internship. And I was like, sure, let's do that. So they gave me the phone call, and then I went into interview, and that's where I was able to go into Santa Rosa, which I had talked about earlier. And that was when I was like, okay, maybe manufacturing. And who would have even thought that manufacturing, that wasn't something that I even thought about earlier, but you know, it led me here ultimately. And so I'm really glad that I didn't give up with that, because, you know, who knows where else I would have been. I mean, I'm sure I would have found something, but I'm glad that I kept pushing forward and kept having that belief that something will come out from this. And yeah, I'm really having, I keep telling myself, I'm like, look where I'm at now, and I am really proud of myself that I didn't do that, that I didn't give up. So yes, so thank you.
So when I finished my master's degree, it was shortly thereafter that the economy crashed and went into a recession. And some of the jobs that I had been applying for, you know, I had just finished my education, worked really hard to achieve this degree, and I actually had an interview lined up with the state health department in the epidemiology department, and they canceled the position. They didn't just cancel my interview, they got rid of the position entirely because they didn't have funding. And that was pretty discouraging at the time. And so I kind of had to, I continued working at my job that I was at, and decided to wait a little bit more until I found the right spot. And then I was able to get my job at Huntsman, and I guess
very like defining moment that stands out in my head as I consider this question, and it's a moment where I was sitting in my office in Moab, and I was looking at this shop that I had been given, and it was empty, and there was like a few things that had been delivered, equipment that had been delivered, and the semester was starting in 2 months, and we had done all this marketing around the program. This is Chloe, this is our new welding instructor. Up until this point, there had, like, USU welding had been around for 20, 30 years at only one location. So it was a big deal that they were expanding into the second location. I just moved my whole family for this job. And so there was a lot of pressure on me, and I was sitting in my office and I was looking at this shop and I was thinking, I have no idea how I am going to make this happen. I was 23 years old. I had never even managed a welding shop. And I didn't know who to go to for resources. I didn't know how purchasing worked. I had this lady that was running the campus that was telling me I couldn't even put holes in the walls when I was like putting together the shop. And I just felt this like wave of dread and hopelessness wash over me as I looked at this and just thought, I have no idea how I'm going to do this. And I just put one foot in front of the other, and my whole time at USU has been an exercise in navigating fear. Really, I've been terrified through every step of the process. But it's been a really good practice for me to develop as a person and learn how to confront fear. And in my life, I've decided fear can sit in the passenger seat and it can inform me and it can warn me, but I'm in the driver's seat and I'm the one who gets to decide to move forward. And it was just, I guess, through sheer stubbornness and determination that I just did the very best job I could and just kept putting one foot in front of the other and making my best guesses about what had to happen next, and experimenting and figuring things out, and just being willing to fail and being willing to do hard things. And that program became a success, and now my blanding program has become a success, and it all happened because I learned how to confront fear and act anyway, even though I feel fear. And so I've learned about that. I learned a lot about that throughout my time at USU.
So since this is not a competition, talking about burning things. So I went to college, as I mentioned, and I thought I was going to love becoming a chemist. So I took a class and burned part of the lab. So that didn't work out. Then we have in physics to go to the lab and do measurements with circuits. I was the only woman in the 20 students class, and I was asked to plug something in, and I burned the oscilloscope. That meant that the professor said, Rodriguez, you're out from, you're taking the data that the others are going to be. So I thought, well, maybe experimental is not for me. I took a couple of classes. Then I had some faculty members, some other professors telling me I wasn't good enough. And something I want to bring up is you will get that feedback from a lot of people, because you're going to have to meet someone else's bar for that. And I think those were the moments when I look back where I was thinking, really like questioning myself, can I do this? Is there a way I can really be successful at that? And I think I get that question to myself every 2 years. So this question for me is not something that is once in the life of my career that happened. It's asking why are you doing this, and going forward and finding something that is meaningful to you in how to do this. So I don't know how you burn things by welding. That would be interesting to know, but there are other ways of burning labs.
The last time, the last time I had to procure an oscilloscope, it was like $30,000. So if you melted one, I had a good laugh about that. I feel for you though. I probably would have shared the same emotional breakdown. I can understand. So that's okay. Thank you guys, I'm sniffling, I'm getting over a cold, I'm sure you guys can all tell that's very obvious, but I will continue to persist, so. Okay, next question, what part of your work are you most excited about?
That is tough because I love all of it. I love the bugs, and I love the history, and I love the geography, and I love the biography and the genealogy, but I think mostly what I love is that I feel like I like being a public servant. I like working for the good of all people, and I love the way that science is collaborative, and that there's like this seeking of one truth, and that we're all humbled before that, and that the colleagues that I cherish are all seeking to make things better for everyone, and that we're all sharing resources, sharing knowledge, trying to learn from one another, and collaborating across borders. And I really love that part of science.
For me, I would probably have to say continuous improvement. Now, continuous improvement is a huge part of manufacturing, and that you're always trying to figure out how can you make something better, how can you make it more efficient, cheaper, faster. And that was also part of the reason why I realized that I really liked manufacturing too, is because like I mentioned, like a lot of my peers in college and everything were going into design, which takes a special talent of being able to come up with ideas straight out of the blue. And I think that is amazing. For me, it's not, that wasn't my necessary talent, but what I found that I am really good at is if you can give me something, I can probably figure out how to improve upon that. How can we make that better? And that is a lot of what manufacturing is. And so what I really enjoy about that is also because it's not just one person trying to figure out how to improve it. And we are always working in a team. We're collaborating with all the different areas. We collaborate with the technicians on the floor that are building the product. We are collaborating with the actual design engineers that created the product to begin with. We are collaborating with test. How can we make this easy to test the product? And then we have quality. What items are important to make sure that we are building up to the standard that we need to meet the customer expectations. So all of that kind of goes in onto a daily basis when we're trying to figure out the issues and figure out how can we solve these issues, how can we make it better. So that is something that always excites me on a day-to-day basis and a huge part of my work. So definitely continuous improvement for me.
There are some absolutely incredible clinical trials that we have in cancer research right now. One example is something called CAR-T. Stands for chimeric antigen receptor, and they're T cells. So basically what that means is they will take your own blood cells, your own white blood cells from your own immune system. They'll remove them from you, and then they will go back into a lab, and they will engineer them, and they will add something that will help fight your cancer to those cells that are your very own, and then they'll put them back inside you. And there have been people that have actually been cured from their cancer from this new technology. And so we're trying it in all different kinds of cancer with all different kinds of combinations of things. And there's new things like that that come out all the time. And so I get to see it before you guys get to see it. And it's really exciting all the time.
The coolest part of my job is just seeing my students from the time they come in to the time they leave, and the skills that they develop and the confidence that they develop, and just watching the light bulb turn on and watching them improve. Like, that's the most beautiful, important part of my job. And especially because I serve Native American students, a lot of them grew up in very underprivileged households. A lot of abuse was very prevalent in a lot of their lives. They grew up in environments where they were not supposed to really be seen and heard, and much of a voice or much confidence. And something that I see them develop in my program is confidence in themselves and skills that they can use to go make money and make a better life for themselves and their families. And that's really my interactions with my students are the most incredible part of my job. And I'm also very grateful a lot of high schools and middle schools and sometimes elementary schools will come and tour my shop. And I will get to watch people weld for the very first time, and that is just an awe-inspiring moment and such a special moment every single time. Because like the day that I lit my first welding arc that absolutely changed my life. And not every student that visits my shop will grow up to become a welder, but I think like when I get to observe them laying down their first weld, that I can see a seed being planted. And I can see them thinking, this might be for me, like this could be for me, I could end up here. And then also watching my female students grow and evolve and gain confidence and see more of a future for themselves in this industry. And you know, they see me doing this, and I think that gives them more confidence that this is something they could do as well. And I've seen my female students, I have a story I'd like to share actually. When I was in Moab, I was hanging up flyers for my program, and it was before I had taught anything, but we'd put together this flyer, and I walked into a Napa store, and I said, can I hang a flyer in your window? And they said, sure. As I was hanging up the flyer, one of the Napa employees, her name was Haley, came up to me and was kind of asking questions about the program. And I told her about the program and what classes we offer, and just like I did with everyone, I said, you should come join our program. You should come take a welding class. And I didn't think anything of it, but she came and she joined my program and she took classes, and now she's welding professionally in Moab, and she's working on really cool projects, and I see her posts, we follow each other on social media, and that would not probably have happened if I had not walked into a Napa and asked to hang a flyer up, and it's just been incredibly inspiring to see her journey and what she's achieved, and just all of my students, really, but like especially my female students again, because only 5% of the welding industry is female. It's been really cool to see my female students build confidence and understand that this is something that they can pursue. One other story, I had a student this past year, her name was Rotanya. She grew up on the reservation, she grew up in the woods, and she was a shepherd. She was a sheep herder for a lot of her life, and then her great aunt said, I want something better for you than what I have, and her great aunt decided to fund her coming into our program and taking welding classes. And I just watched Rotanya blossom, and I pushed her into leadership positions that she was initially would have rejected, but I was like, I think you would be a good fit for this. I pushed her in my classes. She did her nails, I do my nails. We like, you know, compared notes on what our nails looked like during welding classes. And now she's getting her associate's degree in welding technology in Price, and it's just been incredibly inspiring to watch her journey, and that's the best part of my job. Just watching the evolution of my students and watching the seeds be planted when I recruit, and watching people understand that this is something they can really do and make money off of and use to make their lives better.
Is there any question that you've ever thought about that you couldn't find an answer to? This is what I love about my job. I go in and I can tell you today, we don't know which is the closest black hole to our planet. Couldn't be that your next question. Is it, how could we measure if that object is close to us? Because not all of them shine. So what I love about my job is that I get to find answers to questions that no one else has an answer to. And I love doing this with my teams of students because they have a lot of power, which is time, that I don't have. And so I can raise questions with them and find answers to that and help them discover the answers to these questions. And this is something we do here up in Logan, which is kind of interesting as well. There's a lot of things you find out in Utah that Also, it's not just, the university, there are so many other applications of where our students go and work around the state, which is great. So I'm very thankful about that as well, of the impact on people. So.
All right, thank you. Right, I think we're running a little bit long. Sorry, I'm scrolling to see. This is the last one. Okay, I thought so, but okay, sweet. So, last question, Christy, what advice do you have for those who are interested in pursuing a career in the STEM field?
Generally, women and girls think that they have to be the smartest person in the room, and they underestimate themselves. Stop it. Stop it, stop it. You are definitely more qualified than you think you are. You don't have to be, I love it. I love that story about you burning down the chemistry lab. And I love that story about you making your own prom dresses. You can be girly, you can do your nails, you can be not good at math. If you're excited about science, you just need to be enthusiastic and curious and show up. You're wanted, you're needed, be there.
Amen to that. Just do it. One thing that I am so excited about your guys' generation, okay? When I had started, like I had mentioned, that was just the beginning of some type of robotics or engineering program when I started. There wasn't everything that, that I see that is available now was never available in my generation growing up. So there's so many things that are out there. So if you are interested in math, science, anything that has to do with STEM, or even it doesn't even have to be STEM, because you know what? STEM is in everyday life. Anything you're thinking, you're problem solving, and anything. So there are so many different opportunities to think of. One thing I'd like to point out that that even is here in Utah, and it's all nationwide, but something that I always enjoy helping out with that I've been doing recently is this engineering development program, STEM development, that is called Co-Ninjas. And I don't know if anyone has ever heard of that, but they have a lot of great opportunities to just kind of get in there, start building. There's with Legos or anything like that. And they're all around the area, so that, something for both boys and girls, and it's for everyone. So, start with something. I bet you there is something around the area for you, and, it doesn't matter if you're a boy or a girl, whatever you feel like doing, just do it. One thing that I'll always remember that Charity had told me was the only person that could hold you back is yourself. So if there was anything that I could say, that is my one advice to you all. Just do it. Wherever your heart goes, just follow that. And you're going to do great regardless. So, thank you.
I'm going to say something that Christy said again. It's really, really important to stay curious, to ask questions, and to keep learning. That's the best advice I can give you.
The best advice I can give is there is no growth in your comfort zone, and there is no comfort in your growth zone. And in order to be a woman in STEM, really, you have to be comfortable being the only woman in the room, and just get comfortable with fear. Just get comfortable with doing scary things, get comfortable with being uncomfortable and confronting fear. Keep your why in mind. Do it for yourself. Other people's opinions don't matter. And women can do hard things, and women can be successful in the STEM industry. And if you have ever questioned that, I hope that you found inspiration in this session and listening to these incredible women. Women can do anything, and girls can do anything, and we can be anything, and I just hope you leave knowing that.
I add some ideas here to everything you guys said. I totally 100% support this. But, and this is for everyone, it's not just for women. I think we all had these moments when we were little, we wanted something, right? We were very stubborn. I have, my son wants a Nintendo that I haven't bought. And we all have this stubbornness. So I think that's part of anyone's career, being a bit stubborn with what you like. And maybe you don't really know, like I, needed to try. And that's part of it. Burn, try, and be stubborn. I think that is for everyone in the room, not just particular. So, yeah.
Is it necessary that they burn things?
There are different things. You can break a computer by coding it. You can, I've continued doing. I tried to be a numerical relativist and got caught by, stopping every runs of a whole, computer system. So I keep on trying new things, and it's not burning always.
I did set my friend's backpack on fire once when we were doing Bunsen burners, so I think it is necessary.
I think a common theme, including my own career, a common theme in STEM is that you absolutely will break things. But I like to say that you cannot fail at something or do poorly at something if you are not trying at something and exploring something. And so I'm going to interject. I know I'm not a panelist, but Misty made the mistake of giving me a microphone, so I'm going to participate. I'll say that I have a learning disability, so I'm dyslexic, and it's numbers and symbols. And I got 2 math degrees, and I had 2 babies at home when I did it. And I thought I was going to fail, and I thought I was doing terribly. And that just wasn't the case, and it took me a little longer to get there, but I got there. I got a bachelor's in engineering, and I got a master's in business. And there wasn't a day that went by that I did not think, oh man, am I just going to tank at this? And I didn't, and here I am, and it's fine. And I tried really hard, and I failed really hard a few times, and I made it, and we're good. So I'd say keep going. Like, no matter how many times you just brick at something, do it again. And you have to be really bad at things at first to get really good at things eventually. So.
Were you a hero or a villain?
I was not forgotten. Because it also included the email system. That was a good memory. Okay, so if you have a question, please raise your hand and I will find you this microphone. It can be any question for anyone. No question? Okay.
This question is for Christy, the bug lady.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a cool story about a bug that you found, or what is in the collection?
Oh gosh, we'd be here all night. But the coolest thing that I've been working on is the Firefly Project. So 99% of Utahns probably don't know that we have bioluminescent fireflies. And one of the things that drew me to entomology is I knew that there was a lot of things we didn't know about insects. There's like millions of bugs waiting to be named. Tons and tons. I knew we'll be able to name a new species. I didn't know that there would be something so charismatic all over the West. So we started this project in 2012, 2013, and we just started asking people. We knew there was 1 or 2, maybe 3 populations in the state. So I started this citizen science project with an entomologist at BYU, because we thought if both of our names were on the project, BYU and University of Utah, that people would not be suspicious. They'd either be like, okay, we'll give you data if you're BYU, or we'll give you, you know what I mean? We'd use the rivalry to our advantage. And so data started pouring in, and it turned out there are fireflies in at least 27 of the 29 counties, and we were astonished. We've got 1,000 data points, and the project had to expand outside the borders. And so when I tell people, they're like, wait a minute, I've never seen it. I'm like, go outside in June into a swampy area in the dark and just turn and look. Like I've seen them, I've collected them all over. And so it's so exciting, and the point of it isn't like, gee, we have fireplace. It's that I want people to fall in love with where we are. I want people to have a better sense of stewardship of our place here. I want people to think, what else could we find? If we're not noticing fireflies, and because I love the history of it, I went through every historic newspaper looking for fireflies and lightning bugs and couldn't find any mention. So it was just like farmers and ranchers knew because they are on the land at night, so they're smart and they're aware. But there's so many aspects of the project that I love, and I'm so excited about bringing new information to people. And yeah, I love an intro bug. Like you're like, ew, I don't like bugs, but I do like butterflies, and I do like fireflies, and I do like dragonflies, and I do like ladybugs. And I'm like, we're gonna get to cockroaches eventually. I'm gonna get you to like all the bugs. So yeah, it's a really fun project, and I like getting people to like Utah better.
I have a question for, what's the other person's name? I keep forgetting. Oh yeah.
I'm Chloe.
Oh yeah. What is the coolest project you've ever done? Like that the most that you like?
Well, building the 2 shops I think was the coolest because it, a lot of lives have the potential to be changed because of that. But I also enjoyed building that 6th-floor apartment complex out of shipping containers in Salt Lake because now I know how to build a shipping container home from scratch if I ever want to do that. I really learned a lot about construction in general and really enjoyed that.
What is it called so I can Google it later?
Box 500. If you look up Box 500 apartments, you'll find it. I think it's been bought and sold, but you'll find it if you Google that.
And then, since this is kind of fashion related,
All right.
do you know what the dress is?
The dress?
Yeah.
Is there the dress?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Can you educate me?
Yeah, the blue thing that people say. It's blue and black and
Yeah, okay, I remember this, yeah.
No.
I don't remember where I'd fall on that. I would probably have to look at it again.
They say it was in 2015.
Yeah, I do remember that. I think I skewed more blue and black. I think that is my final decision on that from what I can remember.
I have a question for him. How did you find out about that? That was like 10 years ago.
That's because a teacher decided to bring it up yesterday.
I love that.
He said he was seeing gold and white. I'm like, how dare you?
Thank you. The kids are all right.
Audience survey. Blue? Yes. Blue for the dress.
This is a question for Rodriguez. Have you ever seen a black hole?
No, I have not seen a black hole, but I have seen the shadow of it. And I have also seen other things they do, which are gravitational waves, they're called. So it's like, imagine you're in a room and there's some light coming into your door, but you see a shadow of someone walking, and you can hear the footsteps. And you could tell maybe it's your mom, maybe it's your siblings, or someone else in the street. So you know who that person is because of the images they produce, their shadows and their sound waves. And so that is the best we can do at this point for looking at black holes.
Questions? Okay, come in. If you're allowed, you can also yell it. But here's the mic.
I know, I'm not a runner, and I'm just afraid I'll fail.
This question is for Chloe. Besides welding, do you still do your fashion and sewing on occasion, or?
I tried to make I found these sheets at a thrift store that had flamingos on them, and I tried to make a flamingo dress last summer, and I got most of the way through it, and then I got to the zipper, and I do not do well with zippers for whatever reason, so I almost finished it, but not quite. But I have a welding hood that I spray painted pink, and I'm working on bedazzling right now. I don't know if that counts, but it's like a pink bedazzled hood that I'm like halfway through. I don't know if that counts.
This can kind of work for any of you. I'm hoping I can phrase this question right. I'm wondering, like, when it comes to your careers and passions, do you like constantly think about them every day, all day, or do you like separate your careers from your everyday lives?
The field that I work in, because of the nature of it, it seeps into my everyday life. It's like very comprehensive all the time. All the gifts people give me are bugs. People text me bug pictures at o'clock at night, numbers I don't have saved. Hey, what's this spider? I'm like, I don't know you. Who are you? All my social media is bug stuff. All the travel I do is for bug stuff. Most of my friends are Nature Conservancy or the aviary, or like, oh hey, remember we did this bug thing together. So I feel like it's all bugs all the time.
I could probably add something too. So like I mentioned, a huge part of what I do is continuous improvement, and yes, that is in manufacturing, but continuous improvement can be found in all of life actually, and even like outside of work, like for example, when I'm not doing my work, I love music and I love doing video editing, sometimes for other things, but sometimes for my music too. But I'm always like, I would start something and then I would be like, ooh, I could add this effect, or I could do better. And sometimes even like weeks later, I'll come back to it and I'm like, ooh, I have this idea to kind of make it better. And also when I do music, so I play on the piano, I always like getting the songs, but I always like arranging them as my own. In my opinion, like I improve them for what's good, what works for me. So I'm always like doing that on the computer, and that's something that I always enjoy. But it's always like, it is like a type of continuous improvement and things that I think about outside of work, and sometimes I can kind of use some of that knowledge and put it into what I'm doing at work. So yeah, it's totally, I try to separate the actual stuff that I do, but like it's an idea that comes back to like engineering is everywhere, science is everywhere. So yes, it's definitely an everyday life for me too.
For me, having a laptop computer is the problem. A phone is worse because it infiltrates your work, but there's more to that. So for being a physicist or doing any of career, you have to figure out where's the boundary. You don't really need to be doing science and thinking about black holes all the time. I don't think that's necessary. And I think nowadays we are invaded by all this information that kind of drugs us into doing that all the time. So learning that was new as well. So the field was very different 20 years ago than what it is today. I can, compute a lot of things just on the laptop or on my phone. Like I can produce those images with my phone. I am running things, but then there's life, right? There's the kids. I want to go skiing. So at some point it has to stop, and that's where, I learned how to stop it. And I thought at the beginning it would impact my career, and I don't think it has impacted it in that way. I think one has to find the balance, at least in my experience. So.
I'll just add really quickly. I think it's really important to have other dimensions to your life than your work. One person that has been a real mentor to me said, work doesn't love you back. And one of the unique perspectives that I get working with cancer patients is it's really the relationships that you have in your life with the people in your life. And it's really important to make sure that work and your passion doesn't come at the expense of that.
So I train welders, I spend all day in a welding shop, and then my husband's a welder, so I go home and sometimes we talk about welding. And last week we were up until 2 o'clock in the morning debating TIG filler metal feeding techniques, and we both have been welding for over a decade and have really strong opinions about welding, and so we'll get right into the I agree, work-life boundaries, I totally agree, that's something I've had to learn for myself, but I am around welders 24/7, and I almost never get sick of talking about welding.
Other questions?
Okay. This is also kind of for everyone. Just is there any common misconceptions about your job that you feel like you answer a lot? That's a misconception that you wish a lot more people would not have.
I've got a big one. Has anybody in here heard of a placebo? Right? So a lot of people think that when you go on a clinical trial, you may not get an active therapy, you may get a placebo, and there are placebos. So placebos are just, they sometimes call them sugar pills, meaning that they're not an actual medication. But we don't use placebos in all of clinical research. It's really important. It's not ethical to give somebody that's got terminal cancer nothing to try to treat their cancer. And so that's a huge misconception that I wish people knew, is that placebos are not in every aspect of clinical research.
I'm not sure if other people would think this a misconception of what I do, but I certainly had a misconception about manufacturing. I was not very educated on what manufacturing really was. I did take a couple classes in college, and it was very hands-on. We did some type of welding, we did sand casting, and I thought that was pretty cool. But I thought it was really I thought that was it. I thought that was what manufacturing was because that was the only class that I took. So when I was offered these positions, I was thinking, okay, well, what is it that I'm actually going to be doing? But when I found out that manufacturing is all around the process, not just doing one or two specific things to make the item, but it's all around how to monitor the item, how to improve upon it, investigating any issues that may be happening. Is this an issue? Is this a trend among multiple items, and how can we solve these problems? So it really is another broad way of looking at engineering that I didn't even realize. So that was definitely a misconception on my part, and I'm glad that I gave it a shot, and I'm really enjoying it now. So that was probably that for me.
I wish my students knew, and everyone, that for doing any topics that you want to become an expert on, most of the students think they need tons of money. There's tuition you have to pay for, your apartment or your residence hall, your food and everything. But when you're doing a career like what I did, I went then to a PhD program. So starting after you do your bachelor's, you're funded by the university. The university would pay students to become PhD students. Different thing is an MBA or law school. I'm talking about, and I see that all the time in our students. I know how hard it is for many of us in the families in, helping our kids or others to go through, the university. But look out, because there are fellowships, there are internships. Many universities also offer opportunities to work. Now there's a lot of flexibilities to the universities from taking classes while you are working. So you don't have to be a stellar student coming in and graduating in 3 years and, putting all this pressure, economic pressure on everyone. And they're shorter certificates. There are a lot of things you will learn with, working and doing other jobs that could complement. No, it doesn't need to be, you're 18, I need to go to the university and then get a job. That's not longer like that. And I wish the students, I see them, they get very anxious, having this burden for their families, for getting trained. And so I wish there was more information for them, that there's always time to go back and train if you need so, and be very conscious that that's a possibility. And there are many fellowships, and I wish, those were better communicated to everyone. So.
Sure, thank you. I think, from my perspective, I think maybe people sometimes have a very narrow definition of what it looks like to be a welder, and they think it's a really dirty job, and you have to get down to work, and maybe it's mostly in rural areas. But there's all sorts of different welding jobs available, from like aerospace TIG, where you're in a really clean shop, and everything is very controlled, and everything is very clean. Pipeline welding, right, going out, like welding in dirty environments, but getting paid a lot of money for it. There's underwater welding. You can make $3,000 a day doing underwater welding. It does take some time to build up to that, and there is a 15% death rate, which is why you get paid so much. And there's also like welding inspection, where you're focusing mostly on documentation, and then there's welding education. So I would just say there's a lot more types of welding jobs available than probably people think.
People think bugs are for boys, which is, what do you think about that? Boo, bugs are not just for boys. People I actually hate the term STEM. I hate it because it's very exclusionary, and what are we excluding? The humanities. Why are we doing that? I think that's bad. People don't realize all the creativity that we all bring to our work. So there's a lot of art, creativity, writing. There's a lot of creativity to the sciences. So I think we all probably bring a lot of creativity to our processes and have fun doing it.
I think I can fix that. Let's call it STEM. How's that? Let's fix it. Let's call it STEM.
Or STEAM, add art in the middle.
STEAM.
Yeah.
There we go. That includes it now.
Yeah, the A brings the A game to the Sorry, I had to do it. Other questions for our panelists? If you want to shout them, go for it. Where were the hands? I already lost one.
Is there like, do you know if there's ever been like a bug that's been used for like medical care?
For sure, yeah, but off the top of my, yeah, for sure. Off the top of my head, there's a cone snail, so an invertebrate, but not an insect. There's a cone snail that they researched at the University of Utah that's super, super dangerous, that can like kill you. They don't live here in Utah, but the toxin in the snail can be used as a pain control in humans. So that's research that's done at the U. So yeah, there's actually a ton of different applications in insects because they're so varied and interesting, and they do so many different kinds of things. So
we've done clinical trials with some of the snail venom. Yes, so a lot of cancer patients have pretty significant pain, and it can be really difficult to treat. And we've done some of the snail venom clinical trials. Crossover.
And then Chloe, have you ever like done underwater welding?
No, I wish. I thought about it for a while. We did what's called submerged arc welding in school, which the arc is submerged under a layer of granular flux. But when they first told us we were doing that, I thought they had like a dunk tank in the shop that we were going to take turns in. But unfortunately not. It's something that I like study with my students because everyone thinks that's the coolest thing ever. I've never done it, but it would be cool to do it someday.
have questions? Yeah. Oh, I'm coming up.
Yes, I want to hit it from a different angle. I'm a parent, and I have 2 little girls, and I bring them, and they're not there. From a father, you know, and from as a youth, my name was Richard Mark Spaceman Velasquez. You know, I was like 6 years old calling myself that, and I'm just, those black holes just, But anyways, just in a quick moment, maybe one of your ideas or how your father influenced you. I just want the best for my kids.
I would say, from my perspective, when you're raising your girls, let them know that they can do anything and let them know that they can be anything. I was raised in a household where there was like a very narrow path set forward for what was expected of me in my future, and I wish that my parents had really told me that I can do anything and that I can be anything, and just support them in their interests. Like, let them play, let them be curious, support them in what is interesting to them, and they will decide what their path looks like, and they'll decide where they want to end up, and your job is to just be a guide and encourage them and support them.
Yes, absolutely. May I ask, how old are your daughters right now?
10 and 14.
10 and 14. So they are in the age that they are starting to develop interest. Yes, kind of just see, like, what is it that they're most interested in, and see if there's a practical way to support. Look around the area and see if there's something that's available for them. That is what my mother did to help me get in. She was always looking for opportunities for me. She was the one that found the robotics that was even available. So, you know, I owe a lot of that to her. So it's kind of like, yeah, just keep looking around, and just keep supporting them whatever you can do. So you seem like a good father. So just keep that up.
I agree with that. I have really strong feelings about this. I feel like if your kids like sports or music, you can find a mentor very easily. But if your kids have any interest in science, you maybe can sign them up for a science camp, you know, but it often doesn't fill their needs. Finding an adult who's a mentor to them is everything. So even if they only meet with them one time, if you contact an adult that has a similar interest to them and say, can you meet with my kid for an hour, with you obviously, and they have an adult who's like, yes, it's cool that you're interested in that. Here's 10 vocabulary words for you. Here's some YouTubers you should watch. Don't watch that other crap. Read this book. Use these, make drawings, I like mentor kids all the time, from 6 to 16. That's what I do. And I feel like even if they only meet with me one time, their interest is validated. I'm listening to what they like. So having them meet with other adults that can show them, oh look, there's a grown-up who does what I like. That's really key. So I say, like, bring them to stuff like this. You've already done it. You're good. You're done.
Oh man, I'm loud. I'm afraid of unfortunately saying something.
So my kids, they left because the little one was getting squirrely on dad. They are almost 10 and almost 5. And what I've found, and what I wish my parents, particularly my dad, would have done a little bit more, is pull on the thread. If they say, hey, what's that? We don't need to look that up. Don't do that. Google it, teach them how to Google it. They want to know something, you know what, I don't know, let's go find out. I put in an Amazon Echo in my house so my kid could ask it questions about the moon. Just anything you can do to help them pull on the thread. Neil deGrasse Tyson said that kids are scientists. All kids are scientists. They want to experiment. Let them experiment and just nurture it, pull on the thread. They'll figure out if they want to learn more or not. If they don't, they won't ask. If they do, they will keep asking. So follow the breadcrumbs to where they want to end up.
I will add to that. It's really important, especially at this age, that we have kids experience asking questions and just getting feedback that's not negative. it's important that they learn that it's okay to ask questions. Adults, we do not know all the answers, but we sure do know where to find them. And we live in a city that has a lot of options for families, I think, to learn different topics. NHMU, all the different universities have art museums, they have camps here at Clark Planetarium. All of our science demos and microscope days that we do every Wednesday, Fun Science Friday every Friday, those are free. And we have different topics every week. My team back here, excellent educators. So just keep coming back, take them to places, even if you just go outside, have them ask questions. Say like, pick a color and go find the thing that's that color. Whatever you do, just engage with them and make sure that they know they're supported.
That was hugely helpful to me.
Other questions? Okay, so thank you to all of our amazing panelists. This program is exactly what I think is needed everywhere. Just a chance for folks to ask questions and just hear just different stories because everyone's path is different. So thank you all for being here today. If we could just give our big round of applause. And again, we do have a lot of programs here at the Planetarium. You can find us on Clark Planetarium's Eventbrite. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out via the website. My contact